year, Youth Education and Activism for Refugees and Migrants' Rights. It is a grassroots, it is a small project promoted by a network of grassroots organizations from different European countries. Being a grassroots project, you will be patient with us. You will forgive us if there will be some small technical issue that we will manage to solve as quickly as possible. And so, welcome to everybody. In this first lesson, we will quickly present the project and the network, and then we will go through some, I would say, key issues and principles to introduce the main topics of the next lessons. The goals of the project, as you may already know, if you read the brochure, the presentation of the course, are basically three. The first one is to promote the involvement of young people and students in projects of legal assistance for migrants and refugees. The second one, which is directly connected, linked to this course, is to train a large number of European students and also non-European students and young activists with different backgrounds, providing them with hands-on legal knowledge and skills, which could be helpful for them, so for you, to engage in voluntary legal assistance to migrants and refugees in solidarity project with refugees and migrants in different areas of Europe. And the third one is to provide students and youth activists. So first of all, you that are attending the course, but also to a broader pool of people with tools to exchange expertise and know-how on how to contribute in the protection of the rights of migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers, as well as on project management and fundraising. The idea, so, is to provide the students and young activists from different areas across Europe with skills and knowledge, both on the legal framework that regulates migration and asylum in Europe. So to get involved, so tools and knowledge that can help you to get involved or to contribute to projects of legal assistance and in solidarity with migrants and refugees, but also to provide some knowledge and fundamental skills to start new projects and initiatives in support of migrant people and refugees. As you all know, we are living in difficult times in Europe, and not only in Europe, with regard to the protection of human rights, with regard to racism, and so we think it's very important to try to contribute to the protection of and the implementation of migrants and refugees' rights. So the idea behind the project is to give a small contribution, what we are capable of, to the empowerment of young people who are willing to get involved in projects and initiatives, in grassroots projects and initiatives in support of legal migrants, of migrants and refugees. I will quickly present the network, but starting from our association in Rome, and then I leave the floor to the other partners that will introduce themselves and their projects. As said, I'm part of Diritti di Frontiera, which is a small grassroots association based in Rome, in Italy. It has been founded in 2013 from a group of students and alumni of the legal clinic on migration and asylum of the University of Roma Tre. And it is still the only students association that is in Italy that is part of a clinical project. So that is a partner of the university in running a legal clinic on migration and asylum, and so a project that is aimed at protecting and fostering migrants' rights, migrants and refugees' rights through free legal assistance and consultancy. Diritti di Frontiera is the leading partner of the project, and is in charge of the coordination of the course and of the other activities of the project, and I will present them quickly later on. So I will ask to the other partners to join me and to present their association and their activities. Who wants to go first? Just raise your hand. Who wants to go first?
I can go.
Okay, so I leave the floor to Carla.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Carla. I'm co-founder of the German association. You can see the name here. It's very long and complicated, Migration miteinander, which means in German, migration together. It's a nonprofit organization that we founded in 2017 with the main goal actually to promote mobility rights and opportunities of refugees and migrants in Europe. I will quickly explain how we came to this project and to this cooperation with Diritti di Frontiera. Actually, 2 years ago, we founded some local groups all around Europe and with young people. And there was also built a group of young people in Rome that are almost all were law students actually. And you can find them also still online. It's called Move Europe Rome. And yeah, that's how I met Diritti di Frontiera, and that's how we decided to participate in this project. And I'm very happy to be part of this project. And then I would like to pass the word quickly also to my colleague Carlo, who will share with you what is our role actually in the project.
Thank you very much, Carla. Yes, as my colleague already introduced me, I'm Carlo. I also work in Migration miteinander, and as a project coordinator there. We are now participating in this project, which is absolutely very exciting for us because it is something different from what we've done before and helps us connecting as well with a lot of grassroots realities and a lot of rights-based reality as well, because that's not exactly what we normally deal with. In our job, we are more oriented towards the social side, so we have already experienced in the support of legal secondary movement, let's say. So in the legalization of the pathways within Europe, and in the support in particular of refugees and migrants that live in Europe and are looking for a way to move to another European country. So yes, it is a particular side of the expertise that you find here today in this network that is now introducing itself. And it is for us very exciting to be able to share our experience and, of course, to hear more from other sides. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla and Carlo. I'll pass the word to Diego, maybe, if it's
okay. Hello, I'm Diego Boza. I'm the General Coordinator of PDHA, Asociación por Derechos Humanos de Andalucía, so Human Rights Association in Andalucía. Our goal is a little bit ambitious because we are working on the protection of the human rights as a whole, but the people that founded our association limited it by a regional vision with in Andalusia. It's not that's not true because we are worried about the human rights in the world. So we are not only working on migration, but one of our areas is migration. In fact, we have areas about marginalization, prisons, feminism, international solidarity, and we are working with migrants, with migration for 20 years, more than 20 years. In fact, we are in Andalusia, so one of the main points of migration in Spain and also in Europe. We are in the southern border of Europe, near Ceuta, near Melilla, and from 1988 we are working on this issue. We work essentially in one hand about juridical assistance to migrants. So we have some places to give them that juridical assistance, and we work also making some reports about the situation of migrants. We do the report human rights on the southern border of Europe for 20 years. This 2023 will be the 20th report. So we work also with some universities because some of the students make the practice with us, and for us it's very interesting to participate in this project because we need to make stronger the public opinion about migration in this moment. And for us, it's very important to work with young people in secondary school and also in university to make changes about the vision about migrants. And for us, it's a pleasure to collaborate with Diritti Frontiera con Migration Mittelländer and also with ENCLE in this project.
Thank you, Diego. And so it's Ulrich's turn. Do you want to share?
Well, I can also just do it so you can keep your screen
as you want.
It's not no problem. I think it's not relevant. I think it too much. So I'm just presenting quickly the European Network of Clinical Legal Education. My name is Ulrich Stege. I'm the executive secretary of this network, which was founded in 2012-13 as an association, which is let's say based and registered in the Czech Republic, but but working and operating European-wide. The network is it's a network bringing together law clinics from all over Europe. Europe in a large sense, so not only limited to the European Union. As you may know, clinical legal education is a form of legal education that tries to bridge the more classical sort of, or like somehow even break down this kind of more classical teaching of law into something more contextualized and bringing practice into the universities and classrooms. What we can see effectively is that this movement, which is quite young in continental Europe at least, has brought a lot of activists, students activists together, bringing and working together on social justice issues such as migrant rights. We find, for example, a huge network of refugee law clinics in Germany. We also have in different countries like in Spain, in France, in Italy, a number of law clinics that specifically work in this area. That's why we are basically also part of this network here and of this project. We're very glad to collaborate. We will try to in the training part to put one, let's say, give some contributions on the legal part of migrants' rights. That will be done on Thursday. You will have to deal with me, for example, in particular, in order to have a first overview about asylum rights. Yeah, I think I leave it up to here. We're very glad that so many people have responded to this call for this online training. We very much hope that will be useful to you, and we're looking forward to network with you, but also to continue the project together with our partners here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ulrich. So I will close this round of presentations saying a couple of words about the Legal Clinic on Migration and Asylum of Roma III, which is supporting the project and which is also involved in some of the activities of the project that will come in the next few months. The Legal Clinic on Migration and Asylum was founded in 2010. It was one of the very first clinical experiences in Italy, one of the first on migration and asylum, and I would say the defining feature of this project is that the clinic runs a free legal advice service, a front office service of legal advice and support to migrants and refugees inside the university, so inside the building of the law department of the University of Roma III, which is one of the 3 public universities in Rome. And the legal clinic has been carrying out several research projects on different issues in the last 10 years about administrative detention of undocumented people, on labor exploitation, on gender and asylum. And as currently the teacher of the clinic, I say that it is also a pleasure for us to be involved in this network and to be part of this course. Said that, I would go on with the presentation of the project. I thank again Diego, Carla, Carlo, Ulrich for being here with us. You will have the chance to meet them again in the next weeks. They will be teaching on different topics and issues, and they will take part in the course multiple times. So I will say I will quickly present the course. Okay. These are the goals of the training program. You probably already know them because they were written in the brochure, in the presentation of the course. So I won't be long on this. And I think it's I think it's important just to stress a little bit the idea that lays behind this course. So to try to transmit, to give you a legal knowledge that is that could be useful in your current or future activities in support of migrants and refugees. So the idea is to try to transmit an hands-on legal knowledge, not just theoretical legal knowledge, but practical, legal knowledge. So we will try to have a practical approach on what we will teach. Of course, this is not easy in a course that is focused on the European legal framework, because of course the European legislation regulates, somehow provides the general framework of migration and asylum, of the migration and asylum regulation in the EU, but then the member states, each member states enforce the European general framework in its own way, within, of course, the boundaries, the limits defined by the European law. So that's, of course, a challenge for us to try to make this course practical and actually useful for you in your initiatives, but that will be that's a challenge that we'll try to face and somehow to overcome. But the idea of the course is also to build somehow connections among the participants. That is, of course, among us, but also among you, among the students, let's say the attendees, using the wording of the Zoom webinar. So we will try to make it possible for you to get in touch among you, and to build, to provide opportunities to exchange and to get in touch and hopefully to collaborate in the future. This course is, of course, is also, we hope, an opportunity for you to acquire some legal knowledge that could be, let's say, a grounding for future follow-up studies, so that if you are if you get interested in these topics, this course will hopefully provide you with some general knowledge that can be useful to for future studies and to for future studies. Let's go quickly on the structure of the course. The first module that starts today is dedicated to the EU migration legal framework. So it tries to, we will try to give you a general idea of the most important European laws that regulate migration and asylum. Of course, we won't have time to discuss all the issues that are at stake when we speak about the European migration and asylum legal framework. So we had somehow to do a selection of issues, a selection which is also a selection of laws and legal issues. And we decided to focus on the European regulations and directives, and also on the concrete social issues that are more relevant for those who are interested in getting involved in projects of or are already involved in projects in solidarity with migrants and refugees. That's why we will focus in this first module on the asylum system, so the laws that regulate the access to the international protection in Europe, and we will do it through the case studies, through the case study of the Ukrainian crisis, which is not only, of course, a very hot topic, but it is also a crisis that has been dealt with by the European Union with specific tools and in somehow in an original way, and so it is it could be, we think it's interesting to approach the European common asylum system starting from or through the way in which the EU decided to deal with the Ukraine crisis. The other lessons will be on the Dublin system, the Dublin regulation. So the regulation that regulates the attribution of the competence of the European member states in the field of asylum. So on the competencies of the member states on the asylum requests lodged on the territory of the European Union, and so on. We will have a lesson on asylum in a gender perspective, so a focus on the asylum claims by women and the specificity of these kind of claims. We will have classes on the issue of let's say climate refugees. So the problem of granting protection, of granting asylum to people who flee from the climate crisis, from the effects of the climate crisis, and so on. We will close this module with the lesson number 9 about the legal framework of intra-European mobility of migrants. So the topic that is, let's say, at the core of the experience of Migration Miteinander of our German partners, to give you also an idea of the possibilities of the options to support that are available to support migrants in migrants' mobility within the European territory. The second module will focus on national cases. We decided to structure this module in this way because we thought that it was important to also to somehow delve into the specificities of specific national contests. So we choose some countries. We couldn't, of course, do specific focuses on each European, on each member state, of course. We choose specific countries, specific examples, according both to our competencies, but also to the some of the most relevant issues that are nowadays at stake in Europe with regard to the protection of migrants' rights. We will have 3 classes on the regularization of undocumented people. So in 3 different countries, Italy, Spain, and Germany. So we will try to explain how in these 3 different countries there are possibilities to support undocumented migrants to regularize their position on the territory, so to have access to a residence permit and, of course, to all the set of rights that is connected to a condition of regularity on the territory. We will have a lesson on the case of Poland as a case study about the new, let's say, on the new walls that have been erected at the external borders of the European Union. And then we will have 3 roundtables in which different people from different countries will discuss about the about specific topic: detention, asylum, and criminalization of migration and solidarity from different points of view, let's say from the point of view of their country of work, of activity. The last module, taking action, activism, and lawyering experiences and tools. We will try to give you some inputs, but also some skills about ongoing projects of legal support, and in solidarity with migrants and refugees in different contexts, but also with different, let's say, approaches, and also promoted by different actors from the civil society. The first lesson, as you can see, will discuss the role of law students into legal clinics that focus on migration and asylum. And then we will present the Move Europe program by Migration Miteinander, which is a very interesting project that foster intra-European mobility for young people with refugee background. And then we will focus on the Aegean Islands and the Balkan route with the contribution of activists working on the field in that context. Lesson number 5 will be, let's say, will focus on the funding opportunities and on how to design a project in this field. So how to build a project and where to look for funding opportunities. So basically will be a lesson on project design and management, so more technical. And the last one will be more or less the same kind of lesson, but focusing on Erasmus Plus funding and EU and Erasmus Plus funding opportunities. So projects in the field of mobility, like these, like our project. At the end of the course, what happened at the end of the course? Let's say at the end of each module, we will upload the recordings of the lessons on the website. You will find them in the section International Training of the website. I'm trying here to answer to the questions that many of you made to us in the last few weeks. We will give you a certificate of attendance. Then if you will attend to the whole course, you will get, of course, a certificate for the entire course, but we will also grant certificates for single modules to the people who attended only 1 or 2 modules and not the entire course. At the end, we will also try to offer you opportunities and tools to exchange and to stay in touch with the other participants and with us. We are still discussing about this, trying to figure out which are the best tools to do it. We are thinking about social networks, but also to other kind of digital tools to make it possible, that we keep in touch and that we have the possibility to exchange also after the end of the course. And in the next weeks, or maybe in the next 2 months, you will find an interactive map available on the project website, in which we would like to pinpoint, to locate as many as possible, as many as possible grassroots projects of legal supports which are going on across Europe. And so this map is meant to be a tool for everybody to look for projects of solidarity and support for migrants and refugees, to get in touch with them, to get involved in these projects, or to find them if you know someone who needs help and support in that area. But also it will be possible to add to list your initiatives if you want, if you start new initiatives, or if you are already part of projects that haven't been listed already. So I will I finished this quick presentation of the project. I want only to add a couple of words on the website. The website is finally online, so you can go and navigate it a little bit. We are still working on it. There are some parts of the website that are still not ready. But as I said, you will find there the recordings of the lessons. You will find there the map in the very next future, and you will also find documents and papers that we will upload that could be useful to I don't know, to explore a little bit more these issues, and reports, studies by independent organizations, and so on. The lessons, we thought that to structure the lessons of the course in this way, to have a first, let's say, a first part of the lesson, 45 minutes, a 10 minutes break, and then other 45 minutes of lesson, and to leave the last 15, 20, 25 minutes to questions and answers. You can make questions in the Q&A chat, and we will answer. You can also thumb up the questions of other people if you want to support them. Let's say if there are too many questions, of course, it's possible that we will not be able to answer to all the questions. So maybe we will have to pick the questions that are that have more, let's say, support from the other participants, more likes, let's say. And that's it. So I would so I propose you to have these maybe this time we do 5 minutes break, because we started with a little delay, and so maybe we can have this 5 minutes break and come back for the second part of the lesson on approaching the EU immigration and asylum legal framework. freedom of really move around across international borders worldwide. So as many organizations and activists and scholars and so on have been raising in the last years, this regime of international mobility is part of what has been called the global apartheid regime, which benefits, of course, the richest countries in the world, and especially the countries from the global north, at the expense of the countries of the so-called global south. So the way in which the mobility, the international mobility of people is regulated at the global level is part of the, is deeply connected to a system of injustice, of inequalities, of discrimination and exploitation. So, and the European Union with its visa regime is, of course, part of this situation, of this let's say regime of injustice and discrimination. I'm saying this because I think it's important to understand that freedom of movement of people and as a consequence the protection and the implementation of migrants and refugees' rights in Europe is an issue of social justice. It's not just a matter of let's say of humanitarian concerns, but it's a political issue which is really important, which is key in the let's say in building a more just society and more sustainable society, as well as you can as you will see in the lesson on the asylum in the climate crisis. So I think this is important to frame also our commitment in this course and in this project as a commitment for social justice, and not only a commitment for, I don't know, the enforcement of the rule of law or the protection of human rights because we are, I don't know, nice people with good intentions and motivations. I thought to start this lesson from the narratives. So not from the law, but from the, let's say, the way in which Europe as a space of movement and as an area of destination of migration of migratory movements is narrated, is framed in public discourses. I think we are quite used to two different narratives on Europe as a space of mobility and human rights. These two narratives, of course, are conflicting, are narratives, are opposing narratives. The first one is the narrative of Fortress Europe, so which has, of course, been used in the last years to denounce the increasing process of militarization of borders, the enforcement of restrictive measures against migrants and refugees, to denounce, for example, the confinement of asylum seekers in the Aegean Islands in Greece, but also the condition of asylum seekers on the Balkan route, or the deaths of people, of migrants in the Mediterranean Sea. This narrative, of course, is a very powerful narrative to denounce these kind of restrictive policies and approaches by the European institutions. But it is not let's say, the best way to understand, to analyze how the European Union as a space actually works. Every year, more than 300 million of people arrive in Europe via the international airports, the international harbors, or the territorial borders. And millions of people move across the external borders of the European Union, both either legally or illegally. So actually, Europe is not a fortress, and it's not even the let's say the aim of the European institutions and the member states to build up the Europe as a fortress, so as a closed space from let's say detached from the outside. And at the same time, the idea of Europe as a fortress somehow entails the fact that at the inside of the walls, of the fortress, the space which is limited by the walls of the fortress is a space of actual freedom of movement, of recognition and protection of rights, of human rights, of fundamental rights, is a space of equality, which is protected. This space of movement and rights is protected from the walls erected at the external borders. We will see that this is not the case of Europe, that also the inside space of Europe is much more complex than these kind of narrative, let's say, defines it. The other narrative, which is of course opposite, is the official narrative of the European Union as a space of freedom, security, and justice, as a space in which, if you are admitted somehow, so if you are legal inside this space, if you are included into the community of that lives inside the borders of this space, you can enjoy this a set of a quite wide set of rights and freedoms and live in security and peace. This is also, of course, a narrative that doesn't work to understand or to represent the current condition of Europe and of the people who live inside it, inside its territory. I would propose a different understanding of Europe, which is taken by a paper from two political scholars of a decade ago, of Europe as a maze. So Europe basically as a labyrinth that is based on the legal statuses of people. You will see in a few minutes why I'm saying all these a bit, I don't know, theoretical things. If we understand Europe as a maze, we can better, let's say, capture the structure of Europe as a space, as a legal space that is complex, multi-level, fragmented, manifold, variable, and subjective, in the sense that the relationship of a person with the EU as a space defined by the EU laws, which means also the relationship between a person and of the person with the EU legal system and the EU institutions, depends on his her subjective legal condition. In fact, there's not a single legal status, of course, for the individuals who live into the European Union, but there are not even 2 or 3 legal status, let's say citizen, foreigner, and, for example, undocumented migrant. There is a multiplicity of legal statuses, which are, of course, connected to the different laws, with the different laws of the European Union that regulates the condition of people in living inside the European Union. I listed just some of the legal statuses foreseen by the European legislation. Of course, the first one is the European citizenship, which is also fragmented, and it's also the European citizenship. It's not a let's say monolithic legal status, because, for example, the right of European citizen to reside in a different member states from the one in which they have the national citizenship, the one they are national of. It depends on their working position, on their income. European citizens cannot go and reside in a different member state if they are not workers or, for example, students, if they don't have a specific social and legal status that allow them to reside in a different country. And of course, I won't go through all the statuses that I have listed, but of course there are another important legal status is the one of migrant workers, which is also not a single status, but it's made of multiple status according to the residence permit the person has, or the occupation, the income, and other aspects of her socioeconomic condition. Of course, a very important legal status for this course, for the next lesson, is the refugee status, which is for the third country nationals, so for migrant people, one of the strongest legal status, which, for example, allows the person to move freely inside the European territory, but not to reside in a different, freely reside in a different member state, in a member state different from the one that granted the asylum in first place. And then there are many other legal statuses. As I said, I won't go through the whole list. What I wanted to do is to make it clear that when you work on migration, when you, for example, volunteer or work in a project of socio-legal support to migrants and refugees, you must be aware of the multiplicity of legal statuses of the people that you may that you will encounter, that you may be that you can also that you may be that you may get in contact, that you may encounter a residence permit connected to a legal status that you have never heard before, because as I said, there's a multiplicity and the list of legal statuses, and the list is could be very long. And all these legal statuses are, let's say, provide to the person different access to a different array of rights with regard to the freedom of movement inside Europe, with regard to access to the job market, for example, to family reunification, to university, to the healthcare system, and so on and so forth. Going back to the legal framework, so to the laws, the European Union as a space of mobility and human rights is defined first in the Article 3 of the Treaty on the European Union, that states that the EU shall offer its citizens an area of freedom, security, and justice without internal frontiers. As you can immediately see, the focus of this fundamental provision of the European Union Treaty focuses on citizens of the European Union. It's citizens that must enjoy these space of freedom, security, and justice without internal frontiers. Third country nationals, migrants, asylum seekers, refugees are excluded from these, let's say, from this political program, which is the construction of an area of freedom of movement and security and justice. what does it mean to build, to enjoy an area of freedom of movement without internal frontiers? Is the Schengen area actually a space with no borders, as the, let's say, official narrative, the official discourse depicts it? Actually, not. Actually, the answer is no. The internal borders are still there. The point is that according to the legal status of the person, according to the individual legal status, people have different experiences of this space of internal movement, of internal mobility. Most of all, the absence of border controls inside Europe, as written in the treaty, is ensured in conjunction with measures to enforce external border controls, the legislation on asylum and immigration, and prevent international crime, including judicial and police cooperation. This means basically that the relative, as I wrote in this slide, freedom of movement and residence of European citizens has been exchanged back in the 90s for the strengthening of external border controls. So, for example, the provision of and the establishment of the European border Coast Guard, so-called Frontex agency, has been created as is connected to the is the result of the construction of the Schengen area, so of the space of freedom of movement with no frontiers, and also the increasing militarization of the external borders that we that we have been seeing in the last at least couple of decades, is the result of this process. Is the result of the uplifting of border controls inside the European territory. This relative freedom of movement was exchanged also with the implementation of information system for sharing and exchange of information between member states authorities. I've listed the most important ones: the Schengen information system, the Eurodac system, which contains it's a database with all the personal information of asylum seekers and undocumented migrants apprehended while they are crossing or have crossed illegally the external borders of the European Union, and the visa informative system, which collects all the visas issued by the member states. So basically, the construction of a set of information systems that allow the police authorities of the European member state to share and exchange information between them, about information about, of course, migrants and asylum seekers and refugees, about third country nationals, basically. Another, let's say, part of these, another element of this exchange was the enforcement of adoption and enforcement of restrictive rules on mobility and residence of legal migrants in the EU. You will see which kind of rules I'm referring to in the following class, in the following lessons, in the next lessons. But just to make an example, asylum seekers cannot move freely across the internal border, cannot move across the territory of the member states. They can only move, enjoy freedom of movement inside the territory of the member state where they applied for asylum. And that's, of course, why we see people, for example, dying at the French-Italian border, asylum seekers or undocumented migrants who cannot go, for example, to France, from Italy to France, and are obliged to try to pass the border following perilous routes and risking their lives in attempting the border cross. But said that, I wanted to just quickly go through some of the relevant principles and general rules that regulate the EU migration and asylum common policy. I intentionally skipped the norms about, let's say, the role of European institutions and the relationships between European institutions in the field of migration and asylum, because I don't think are relevant for you, for this course. And I also skipped the principles, not the principles, sorry, the most important provisions with regard the fundamental rights that are recognized to migrants, no matter their legal status, because in the next lessons you will go back on that. You will delve on the most important human rights that are recognized to migrants, also, for example, to undocumented migrants by the EU, by the European Charter of Fundamental Rights, and so on and so forth. I listed the principle and general rules that I think are very important to have clear in mind when we approach to projects in solidarity, in support of migrants and refugees in Europe. The first general rule, let's say, it's the mutual recognition of asylum decision. What does it mean? It means that member states have a duty to recognize the decisions on asylum claims taken by the competent authority of another member state. And these principle is very important when we, for example, when we deal with asylum, when we support asylum seekers or refugees, because we always need to have in mind, to have clear in mind that a decision taken from a different member state must be recognized as valid, as legitimate from a different member, from another member state. For example, from the member state in which the asylum seekers is living in that moment. Okay, this doesn't mean that there are no way to, let's say, overcome this rule that could be an obstacle for the recognition for the recognition of the asylum, but also of more broadly of a kind of protection to a person that, for example, applied for asylum in the past in a different member state and have his claim rejected by the competent authority. There are, of course, ways and strategies to overcome this obstacle. We will discuss them in the next classes, in the next lessons, but it's important to keep this in mind. Another very important principle is the duty of fingerprinting of asylum seekers and undocumented migrants. States must perform this activity, and of course this is very important with regard to the implementation, to the application of the Dublin regulation. Dublin regulation sets the criteria and the rules for the determination of the competent state with regard to asylum claims. And so it's very important to remember when we encounter and when we provide legal assistance, legal information, that if you have been fingerprinted in a different member state, this could be this could be an issue to deal with before applying for asylum, or in the meanwhile that the asylum procedure is going on. And this is connected to the duty of transmitting information about fingerprinting, about asylum decisions, about removal procedures, to the informative system, the designated informative system. This means that it's very, very unlikely, maybe impossible, that a fingerprinting from a different member state, or that a negative decision about an asylum claim or an expulsion decree issued by a different member state is not, let's say, it's not listed in the informative systems of the European Union. So it's very unlikely that the member state in which the person finds himself or herself in that moment won't be aware of this previous decision or fingerprinting or whatever. Another very important principle is the binding connection between entry visa and residence permit. This is very important because often people ask us, for example, to that they want tell us that they want to get a job permit, a working permit, a residence permit for working reasons, while they after they got access to the territory, they entered into territory with for example, a short-term stay visa. So basically a touristic visa, and that's not possible. And so it's always very important to check which kind of visa the person has or had, and if he or she has or had a visa, an entry visa. Sorry, it's my dog. It's always very important to check these aspects before providing information about the options that are available to regularize the position of the person on the territory. The last two principles are not that important for this lesson, so I will skip them because we are running late. The European system of migration and asylum is, let's say, divided into two different systems, which are of course connected, two different legal sectors, let's say, of the European legal order. One on the asylum, so basically the set of rules, of regulations and directives that regulate the common asylum system, the European common asylum system, which comprises, among others, a uniform status of asylum for nationals of third countries, which is valid throughout the Union, and a uniform status of subsidiary protection, which is let's say, which is a different form of international protection, which is foreseen by the European law, and that is, let's say, that completes the safeguards for asylum seekers on the side of the most famous refugee status. There are also other, as you can see, other norms, but you will go other rules and let's say principles that forms the common asylum system, but you will go. I mean, we will speak up, we will present and discuss them in the next lessons. So I will skip this part. I listed here in this slide the most relevant, pretty much all the legal sources of the EU asylum system. That's why, because I thought that it could be useful for you to have these, a clear picture of the legal sources of the European asylum system, because when you work with the law, when you work in the legal field, you always need to start from the legal sources to then, let's say, understand what are the rules that are useful or that must be applied to the specific case, to the concrete case. Sorry, there's a mistake in the title. But anyway, the other sector, let's say, of the European system on migration asylum is the common immigration policy, which is made by measures on the condition of entry and residence, the definition of the rights of third country nationals residing legally, of course, in the member state, but also the measures to counter illegal immigration and unauthorized residence, including removal and repatriation, and also the rules, the norms against trafficking in persons and other forms of exploitation. This is basically the same thing of the previous slide. It's a list of legal sources of the EU immigration policies. There are actually more. There would be more directives, for example, to list here, but I choose the ones that I think are more relevant in general and for you in particular, and some of them will be touched by the next lessons. I will close this presentation, this lesson on the concept of residence permit. I'm aware that many of you already know most of these things because are already involved in projects, activities, or supporting migrants in different places across Europe. But I thought that this is something important to know for those who instead are approaching this topic for the first time. A residence permit, what is a residence permit? A residence permit is a document, okay, that proves the authorization granted to a foreign national by the competent authority of the state that released the residence permit, that issued the document, to reside in the country for a fixed or indefinite length of time. So basically it's important to remember that there's a difference between a residence permit and the visa, okay? Because the visa is the authorization to enter, okay, to cross the border. And of course there are different kinds of visas. And to stay for a certain amount of time, for a fixed length of time. The residence permit is the document that proves the authorization to live, to reside, to stay, and for example, to work, to perform, to carry out specific activities, for example, business activities, or for example, to study, and so on and so forth. And also it's important to remember that there's a difference between the residence permit and the legal status. A person can have a legal status even without holding a residence permit. For example, a refugee, but this is something that you will see in the next lesson. But just to make it clear, a refugee is already a refugee before the recognition by the state, by a member state, let's say. A refugee has the recognition of the refugee status, okay? It's the recognition by the authority of the state does not constitute the condition, the legal status of refugee. Okay, it just recognizes the legal status. So, for example, just to make an example, if an undocumented person is about to be deported back to his country, and he claims to face in his country or her country risks of persecution based on I don't know, for example, his religion, for example, this claim is founded, is recognized as real by the authority of the state that wants to deportate him. This person, even if it's undocumented, cannot be deported according to a principle, which is the non-refoulement principle that you will see in the next lesson. I hope I made it clear, but I can answer to the question. I close with these last lines, these last few lines in the slide. The matter of residence permits in the EU is only partially harmonized by the EU law. So there are only some categories of residence permits that are more or less fully regulated, deeply regulated by the EU law. Most of the residence permit are regulated only by framework legislation. In most of the cases, you will have to check the national legislation, the national law, to actually see which are the rules that regulate that specific kind of residence permit. I listed here the 3 main examples of residence permits that are more or less fully regulated by the EU law, which the EU law always leaves some room for the internal legislation, for the national laws to adapt let's say the rules to the national context, but these kind of permits are more or less regulated, fully regulated by the EU law. You will discuss these kind of permits, I think, in the next classes. For sure, the temporary protection, which has been used to deal for the first time with the Ukrainian emergency, and probably something about the residence card of family member of a union citizen in the lesson about family reunification and the protection of family life. That's it from me. So I already see that there are some questions. Of course, I was a bit, it's a bit late, but I'm available to stay a little longer, if you have questions to try to answer. Why is Latin America different from other global south? Okay, I'm just reading some of the questions. Okay, I try to answer to the first question that I see here in the chat. To Anna, Anna asked about the case of Latin America. Of course, the answer to this question should be must be political, because this is something that depends on international relationships between European countries and the European institutions and the third country, the governments of the third countries. Of course, the let's say, the legacy of European colonialism, as you said, is important when we try to understand the way in which the European Union regulates its relationships with third countries, with the governments of third countries. I think it's also important the links, as you said, between within some European member states and the communities of people living in some Latin America, some countries of Latin America, of South America, for example, Brazil or Argentina, And I think it's also important to keep in mind the role of the economy, of economic interests. Most Latin American, most governments of Latin America in the last, let's say, couple of decades, let's say, bargain these freedom of entry for their citizens while they were negotiating the agreements with the European Union and with the European member states on issues like international trade or the exploitation of natural resources and stuff like that. So let's say that the governments of third countries that have the power to and have, let's say, the assets somehow to leverage, in the negotiations with the European Union and the European member states governments, often ask these sort of privilege, for their citizens to be able to travel, to enter Europe and to travel within Europe without a visa. I hope I answered. And the Cartagena Declaration was a product of the UNHCR in name, but the odds in practice are its response to the massive spike in refugees due to American destabilization of the region. The idea is that having positive obligation towards refugees is something that benefits the primary benefactor of the OS and the US. Okay. Kyle, okay, that was Anna. Sorry, I didn't see the app and the name of Anna, and that's an interesting contribution. So thanks to Kyle. Why can't asylum seekers move to another Schengen country after applying to one place? Isn't it already forbidden to reapply under Dublin regulation? They can't apply again short time. Yes, that's true. That's the question of Bari. That's true. They cannot apply in a different country. So basically they cannot reapply, as you said, under Dublin regulation. But they are not entitled to freedom of movement inside Europe. The answer to your question should be, again, political, because that's a political decision to exclude asylum seekers from freedom of movement, from the Schengen space of freedom of movement, which is explicitly stated by the EU law. But you will have a lesson on Dublin regulation, so you will, I hope you will find more satisfying answers to these questions in the next class. Does the EU have a single database of fingerprint of people coming from the countries? Abu Bakr, yes. The answer is yes. Of course, I didn't have time to go, let's say, to go deeply into these, to delve into all the important issues that I should have mentioned and spoke about in this class, in this first introductory class. But the Eurodac, let's say, if I found it, yes, this one, the Eurodac regulation established in 2013, but actually it was this was a reform of a previous regulation, a shared database, informative system, in which are registered the information of all the people fingerprinted who applied for asylum or applied or have been apprehended illegally crossing the external border of the EU. There are other databases for other information, for example, the visa informative database system, which is instead dedicated, let's say, which contains the information of about the people who got visas to enter into the Schengen area. Marta asks if there are exceptions regarding the duty to fingerprint. No, actually, there are no exceptions. Member state should comply with this duty. They do not always do it. Italy for a long time failed this duty, and that was also let's say a matter of conflict with other member states and with the European Commission. But actually there are no exceptions. Yeah, you got the slides. We will upload them on the website, so you will have access to them. What is Bari asks, what is the reason for EU countries to give different aid? In other words, there is no financial assistance to refugees in some countries, and in some countries there is little financial assistance. Does the EU not have a common decision in this regard? Of course, each country can take their decision, but isn't there a certain lower limit? Yes. There's this one. Directive, so-called reception directive, which lays down the standards for the reception of asylum seekers. And of course, this is just the, as said, these are the standards and the general framework for the reception of asylum seekers in member states, and then each member state can, within these boundaries, the boundaries defined by this directive, can decide how to regulate the functioning of the reception system of asylum seekers. So of course, as you said, there are quite important differences between member states. Yes, as Kyle said, of course, the functioning of the Dublin system, let's say, it's quite complex. There are exceptions to the let's say to the to the competency defined by the criteria of the Dublin regulation. What I mean is that if you, for example, got fingerprinted in Italy because you arrived in Italy as you enter the European territory through the external border in Italy, and you move to another European country, for example, Germany, and there you ask for asylum. Italy, according to the Dublin regulation, Italy should be the competent country, but there are some exceptions to this general rule that you will see in the next in the class on dedicated to the asylum regulation. But if the country is not safety for immigrants, still should no, according to Dublin regulation actually applies only to European member states and to some third country which is not part of the European Union, like Switzerland, for example, which is still part of the Dublin system. So if I may, just to make an example, if you pass through a third country which is not part of the Dublin regulation, it doesn't matter for the determination of the competency about your asylum request. Let's make an example, Turkey, okay? And then there's the whole problem of the EU-Turkey deal, but that's another issue. Where can we find, okay, I think I say we try to answer to the last three questions that I see here, Maria, Kyle, and Nora, also because I'm getting a bit tired. And where can we find the reasons to get a legal status in Europe? Could be a crisis economic one of the reasons. Actually, I'm not getting this question, so I ask Maria to try to reformulate it because I'm not getting it. I'm not understanding actually the question. Kyle, today in the plenary session, the European Parliament voted against discharging the 2020 Frontex budget. Do you know what procedurally is the next step? They have to enact the recommendations of the FRO, right? No, actually, I don't know what's the procedure. You mean procedurally the next step? I'm not much into this Frontex issue, but I know that I know that this resolution of the European Union not to discharge the Frontex budget was the result of a broader campaign promoted by many civil society organizations, lawyers, and actors across Europe to let's say, to denounce the violation of human rights by Frontex, and also to ask for, to ask for to make Frontex liable for these violations. And part of these campaigns, because there wasn't just one campaign, there were more than one. The result of these campaigns were the engagement of some groups from the European Parliament to try to cut the budget of Frontex, and to try to make Frontex accountable for its actions. But actually, I don't know the next steps after this vote of the European Parliament. We will focus more on statelessness. What are the legal sources which are especially important regarding statelessness? No, actually, we won't focus on statelessness because we don't have time. I'm sorry. Actually, we had to make a selection of the topics. I would say that the most important legal sources for on statelessness are the UN conventions, the 1954 Convention on Statelessness and the 1961, if I'm not wrong, Convention for the reduction of statelessness, something like that. These are the two most important conventions, which basically have been signed and ratified by, I would say, all the European member states, and that are so binding for the European member states. And so national legislation should enforce this convention. I could say more about statelessness. I'm not an expert, but I know something about that. We have a project with the Legal Clinic on this with the UNHCR, but maybe I can suggest to, if you want to learn more about statelessness, you can go to on the website of the UNHCR, and you can find their guidelines, the legal sources, of course, the conventions that I mentioned before, but also the handbooks and the guidelines on statelessness in, I think, at least 2 or 3 languages, English for sure, and so you can learn more about statelessness on these on reading these documents. Sorry, I'm a bit tired, so I'm missing the words.